World of Warcraft Systems. How many systems do we really need? Hello there, my name is Dravot, and we're just gonna jump right into this. We're gonna be talking about the systems that we have. We're gonna be, we'll talk a little bit about BFA, a little bit about Shadowlands, but mostly about the systems that are coming into this new expansion that we're about to play. So, we're about to go into Shadowlands, right? Coming out of BFA, and they've just already listed off a whole range of different systems that they're going to use just for the base game. I'm going to discuss a little bit about some features here a little bit, but features aren't really the focus of this because features are kind of their own separate little piece. This is more just to do with the systems and the basic gameplay of your characters throughout a specific expansion, right? And I'm going to kind of start off with legendaries, right? Because legendaries have been like a major part of the game. Like everybody gets a legendary since like Mists of Pandaria. BFA didn't really have it, but looks like they're going to be bringing this back in Shadowlands, where we're all getting legendaries. Kind of makes you wonder why they call them legendary, but we get the idea. They do something special, something different, right? So they have a they kind of sometimes they could change the way you play your class. But they have like special effects other than just the stat sticks and your general gear. So legendaries are kind of interesting. And first off, legendaries are not inherently bad. If legendaries are in there, it's not a bad thing. I'm not saying they're good or bad. I'm just going to discuss as to whether they're necessary or not, right? Um Case in point, anything a legendary does, you could put in a class set, right? The same kind of effects that the legendaries give you are usually things that you get in like class sets. You know, all things considered. The only difference is with class sets, when the next tier comes out, you're going to switch to your next tier of gear, and then it'll have a different effect and you'll play differently there. Um, Unless the previous class set was really good, then you might just run with that, or you might do a 2 and 2, right? Or of course, maybe that's why they have the legendaries in there, because it's not bad gameplay like what we had in Legion, right? Where we have our class sets and then we had our legendaries, and we had to try to mix and match our legendaries in with our regular gear and try to figure out what the best combination is. That is not an inherently bad uh, gameplay option to have, but Shadowlands is starting out without any class sets, so they're kind of leaning really hard on legendaries. And again, the bad thing about legendaries is like that's whole expansion long. If you make a mistake, you're doing a lot of tweaking and turning a lot of knobs and doing a lot of things to try to fix something where you could just like in the next tier, here's your new class set, and if you have to nerf the other one to the ground, who cares? That was the old thing. We really don't want you using it here. They could always just say that, but that's an easier fix than trying to mess with the legendaries that are supposed to kind of last throughout the whole expansion, and some people may be planning around that. Okay, so again, it's not that legendaries are bad as far as the systems go. That's why I'm kind of starting with this one because of all of the ones that are like kind of being added on. This is the one that's kind of like it worked well in Legion with your legendaries and your class sets and trying to make decisions and figuring out what balance you wanted things to be. All right. Again, not saying legendaries are bad. And actually, in all of this, when I'm discussing these systems, I'm not saying that if this is there, which it's gonna be there. This is just a discussion, right? Kind of saying why so complicated, Blizz? Why's it got to be so complicated? But it's just that's all this is, a discussion. It's not saying that this is crap or this is awful or this is bad. Nothing about this is saying this is bad. I just feel like something more simple is better. You know, it simple is smooth, easier to balance, and I guess more predictable and in some ways more fun, in my opinion. Again, this is just opinion, right? So that's kind of a disclaimer as we go through the rest of this video. Legendaries, do we really need them? The next thing, soul binds, not soul blinds, soul binds. Do we really need soul binds? Let's see what soul binds are. It's determining what path I'm going to take. I guess it just makes it, I mean, yeah, you could be like DPS, you could be tanky, you could be, I don't know, cunning in some ways, right? Or healing in some ways, right? Depending on what class you're playing. I wonder where I've seen something like this before, where you have, 3 separate paths that you could take. I don't know. Of course, it's essentially old school talent trees, right? The only thing is you could switch it up on the fly. Well, Blizzard could have us have our old school talent trees and give us 3 things we could switch on the fly, 3 different loads. It's like, hey, go to your load station and figure out what your load's going to be, and then you could switch that out on the fly. It's essentially what this is. Even the conduits, they could give us talent trees with conduits, and we can put it in there. Yeah. Then if they have to change something, they just refund all of our points and we redo it like they used to back in the day. That was never an issue, right? I don't know. It was never an issue for me. Some people, it may have bothered. I don't know. But they made changes all the time, and then they refund all of your points when they changed the tree, and you were able to go through it and put all your points in. And then it's kind of nice because you didn't have to pay for it. Sometimes you're like, oh, thank God. Because I didn't want to have to pay the gold to switch that out, right? But that's long time ago, right? We're not gonna go too far into that, but again, they could have just add some of the convenience we have today to old school talent trees, and it would be just fine, super easy. I don't know why we had to have some complicated system that's tied specifically to one expansion. It's like every expansion we just have new systems that we have to learn. It's not really like we have any continuity, except our classes have the same spells in many cases. Seems just like they're refusing to, you know, do what they did before that people liked. That's it. That's all I'm gonna say for now about Soulbinds. All right. Actually, we're gonna touch on one more thing here because I really want to press something on this. When we're talking talent trees, one of the things Blizzard like to say is, "Oh, every time we do a new expansion, we just have to add more talents, add more talents, add more talents." And it doesn't have to be more talents. You could just decide to go through and add more passive skills and stuff and to get to the main talents. But again, that's by the by. They're all worried about having to come up with all these different talents, and yet here in this next Shadowlands expansion, they're going to have to come up for 4 different talents for every single class, but they're having trouble with talents in these talent trees. Cry me a freaking river. I don't buy it. I don't believe it. And that's it for Soulbinds. Let's go to Covenant skills. And okay, Covenant skills. Let's leave the skills out of it and just talk about covenants in general. I really love the RPG idea of picking a covenant, having a home turf, being super powerful in my particular covenant's home base, right? When it comes to PvP or like the world PvP, being able to be like, hey, get out of my, get out of my town, or just being, instead of the best person as far as on your continent, it's like, hey, we own this particular landmass, right? This particular, I don't know what the night phase zone is, to tell you the truth, which is one I really want to play that I'm probably not going to get to play. I'm a druid. I really want to be able to play night phase. Looks like I might have to, go play vampire with the Revendreth people, right? That's the sad part about what I'm about to talk about, right? I really want to play Night Fae, but I might have to pick something that gives me more power for PvP and raiding. When I really just you know, want to have, as a druid, I want to play Night Fae. And that's the RPG fantasy I want to live out. And it doesn't have to be tied to my player's power. It doesn't, not in the least. But Blizzard feels it has to be. And I don't know why. And I haven't heard a good explanation as to why. But we're gonna leave that one there. That one still stings a little bit, right? I might just do Night Fae anyways because they might go. Because if I here's the problem, if I pick Revendreth and it turns out it's super OP because they didn't think to see the way a legendary would work with this particular conduit and then work with that particular spell, they're gonna have to do some tweaking and some nerfing and some balancing of stuff. Uh, So I might just go with what I want to play and suffer whatever consequences come with that. Being weak is never fun, though. All right. And again, as I'm talking about this, experimenting isn't inherently bad, right? Experiments come out good, they work out well from time to time. 8.2 essences to fix your Azurite problem. Amazing idea. That was a perfectly well worked idea. And then you came and messed it all up with corruptions, which is just a bridge too far for me. It's just like too much RNG in the end with that, right? Um, I'm playing again now, but that's just because I want to be ready for 9.0, and I do have some things I want to get done as far as reputations and mount farming and stuff like that. So there are things that I can still do and that I still enjoy in the game. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that instead of playing 8.3, essentially. But again, experimenting's not bad. I'm gonna go ahead and talk more about a particular feature. This isn't a system per se, but it's just kind of an idea of how sometimes Blizzard just misses the mark, right? I want to talk about islands just for a second, because to me, we had an expansion called Battle for Azeroth, and I didn't have a PvP thing to do, like anything specific to Battle for Azeroth and PvP to do, until I got to Nazjatar, and they had that, AB type battle system, right? Where you're flying to the towers and you're trying to hold that zone and gathering points, right? It's essentially AB in the end. But that was the first, and it was fun. It was great. But that was the first time I felt like Battle for Azeroth actually had, any Battle for Azeroth in it, right? It, I really feel like islands, when they made them, were supposed to be the PvP feature, and Blizzard missed the mark by trying to make it for everybody. Everybody doesn't want to do everything, right? I think that's where islands fell short, is they forced people to play islands where PvP people would have loved playing against actual, players and played islands to death. Right? If it was only a PvP feature, we would have been queuing for that. And whatever rewards were there would have been there. Playing against the AI was a joke, right? That was the problem. But if real people would have been in there, it would have been like, okay, yeah, we're gonna race, and then once we finally see somebody, then that's when the action really starts, right? So I think it was actually a PvP feature that they tried to force everybody into, and they just missed the mark. Because if it would have been just PvP, it would have been well more. It would have been received a lot better, and they could have worked out the rewards accordingly there, right? They could have tied it more into just the PvP side of things and made everything work out well, but they didn't, and they just messed up there. And so again, that's probably something where they experimented, where it would have worked out well, but they sold it wrong, right? They were selling it to the wrong market, essentially. And I kind of feel like they're just doing that with all these systems now. They have all of these people in here playing WoW that kind of, they just kind of want to play their game, and they don't want to be dictated as to how they're going to play their game, right? Let's just see, because we get a lot of excuses for Blizz, like as to why they can't do certain things. And it's like, oh, we can't do that because of balance issues, or we can't do this because it's too hard to balance. But whenever we're looking at when we look at BFA, it's system upon system upon system. We're going into Shadowlands. We have the same thing, right? We have Covenant powers upon soul binds against conduits and soul binds, and we have legendaries, right? And those are just the augmented systems that I feel are unnecessary. And really, you could handle all of these things with trinkets, mini sets, class sets, and just standard gear perks, right? Uh, but you're trying to um, and talent trees, right? Let's tie that in there too. So you could have those four simple systems, but instead we have all this systems upon systems upon systems. And that becomes so impossible to balance. And how they think that they're going to have it all balanced, I don't know. I have no clue how they're going to get all of this balanced. Hopefully, they've gotten a lot from alpha, and hopefully, they'll get even more from beta. But I just don't see it being possible, and how they feel so sure that they're going to be able to make this balanced and make it to where it's fair. I just see some hubris there, and I just feel like this is the expansion they have to get right. I don't want them to fail. I don't want them to fall, but I just feel like they're they might be a little overconfident when it comes to let's talk specifically here. That what this is really about is covenant skills, player power tied to the covenants when it doesn't have to be. Okay. Quite frankly, I just wish we didn't. If they could have just given every class another major skill, and it didn't even have to be tied to the covenants at all. You could tell a story around the covenants without tying it to player power. I get backpacks. I get cool little pets. I could get cool mounts. I get all these RPG things that have nothing to do, again, with my player power or skill. It just has to do with me and my covenant. I don't know why they feel like tying these skills in with the covenants is so important. Some of them kind of have the flavor, but some really don't. I mean, quite frankly, a better idea would be like, well, I guess druids already have very night fae type spells, but okay, so druids, you might still do something special for them, like give them a spell that has a special glow or something, but like change the look, like the warlock green fire, give them an arcane looking fire if they take night fae, or a Revendreth, give instead of green fire, give them red fire instead of like their orange fire that they usually have. It's so easy. I mean, just it changes the flavor of the class, but it doesn't change the class. Seems like the way I would have gone if I were trying to design something around the covenants. The player power idea was an awful idea, and it still is an awful idea, and Blizzard needs to change their mind on that. Again, one of the main reasons being kind of when it comes to legendaries again, right? And trinkets, sometimes they miss the mark. Their trinkets will last the whole thing, right? You have one trinket that's like super powerful, and they'll use this silly little trinket forever. And that just happens, and it's fun. It's part of the game, right? In the end, it's part of the game, and Blizzard needs to get over it that sometimes things happen like that. And I don't think people really get that concerned about that. They're just like, oh, isn't this fun? It's kind of like a meme, right? In the end, it's not a big deal. um Guild perks, if they mess that up, or not guild perks, gear perks, if they mess that up, it's temporary. A tier, maybe two, right? I wish I were some Warcraft historian. I could tell you if it's ever gone into the third tier or something. I just see it becoming a problem, especially the way the gear levels up now. I don't see that being able to happen, right? But something that's temporary, that doesn't last the whole game. Covenants, these skills are going to last the whole game, and it's going to be impossible to balance. That's it. That's the end game there. But that's it for the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for tuning in. You can find me on Twitch. I stream like probably all the time now, but I do actually have a schedule if you want to go there and look at it. But you can find me twitch.tv/Dravot. Also, I have links everywhere down below for the Twitters and all those things. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. That's very important. It helps out, and especially with something like this, I like to know what people think. So if you could just comment and tell me if things you think are right that I said, things you think I'm wrong that I said, right? I've been wrong more times than I could count, but I would like to know what people think, how they feel about this. I think this Covenant thing, the player base really feels strongly about the Covenant skills, and not just the higher ups. The more I think about it, there are certain things that I have to do nowadays that I'd much rather not do with my class that I still do from time to time, just for, the team. And little things don't bother me so much, but when it comes to the whole expansion and what I'm wanting to experience as for the RPG part of the, MMORPG, it frustrates me. No, but that's it. Until next time, make sure you turn on war mode.